Hey everyone, how's it going? It's New Year's Eve, so of course we're going to talk about Batman the Last Halloween. So, last we left off, Batman seemed to be in the mercy of Mario Falcone. How'd that actually go? Warning, spoilers. Beginning where we left off, Mario, instead of pulling the trigger, continues to beat Batman with the gun, talking about how his family just want to do business. Yeah, I mean, sure, they killed a few people, embezzled, and brainwashed a man for about a month, but hey, what businessman hasn't done that? While it's going on, the narration actually switches off to someone else, Dick Grayson, as he talks about how Christmas was always kind of tough on him, since his parents would always do an extra show for the kids, and though he always loved his parents for doing something that generous, he sometimes wished that he could be one of the kids in the audience instead of being the one a part of the show. But after his parents were murdered, he didn't believe that he would ever want to celebrate Christmas again, at least until he met Bruce. It's a really sweet moment, and definitely the best part of this issue, but we'll talk more about that when we talk about characters. Bruce was able to fight off against Mario and get back to the Batcave. Unfortunately, he was still badly wounded, and though Alfred was able to keep him stable, Bruce unfortunately doesn't wake up. Alfred tells Robin all they can do now is wait. Meanwhile, we see that, yep, it would take more than a dunk in the harbor to kill Solomon Grundy, who's able to break free and heads off. Meanwhile, we see what Dick and Alfred do as they wait for Bruce to wake up, mostly fixing up the Batmobile, which comes in handy in a bit, as Dick is kind of worried that Bruce is never going to wake up, takes the Batmobile and uses the autopilot to drive him to Arkham Asylum, where once again he confronts Calendar Man and once again demands that he tells him what he knows, with only Calendar Man saying that he's on the wrong side. Yeah, that's going to come into play later. Selena Kyle comes in once again to tell Dick to leave, but of course he's not going to listen, and the two have a fight, though unlike the other times, Dick was ready and is able to use the same gas Batman used on the paramedics in the last issue to knock out Selena. Elsewhere, we see that Grundy has made to the GCPD, where he has come to collect Gilda Dent, and since this does happen 6 days after he got out of the harbor, you have to wonder, did he get lost, or, as Gilda asked, did someone send him? Unfortunately, we don't get that answer, but Grundy takes Gilda, wrecks up the place a little bit, and heads out. Back with Robin, we see why Dick knocked out Selena. Yeah, essentially he wanted to pull a Sleeping Beauty and was hoping that because he can tell that Bruce and her care for each other, that maybe she would know something to wake him up. She whispers something in his ear, we don't know what it is, and gives him a kiss, which eventually leads to him waking up. But before they can celebrate, Catwoman does request that she's taken back to Arkham Asylum, but despite the fact that he just got out of a coma, Batman is still gonna Batman, and they drive off to the asylum, only to be greeted by the Joker, who for some reason makes a Pokemon reference. Well, I think it's a Pokemon reference. They emphasize the phrase catch 'em all. Anyway, that's where it all ends. This issue was definitely better than the last one. This one was more character focused, as Dick is having an emotional crisis as he fears that he might lose Bruce, just like he lost his parents. Again, I'll talk more about that when I talk about characters, but the way it's handled is still well done, and I do feel like Loeb sets up a lot in this issue that doesn't feel as predictable, though there are exceptions, like for example, still emphasizing Arkham Asylum, as given how the FBI have been very clear to send all the injured villains to Arkham, it is most likely a giant trap for the victims of the attacks, along with Batman. Moving on to characters, surprisingly, this is going to be the first issue throughout this entire series where we don't talk about Batman here, instead starting with, of course, Dick Grayson, as he's our narrator. Dick Grayson here is struggling, probably more so than he has in the previous issues. At first, he was just trying to have Bruce take him more seriously as a partner, but in here, that bravado has melted away, and we're reminded that Dick Grayson is a child right now, a child who is currently reliving his worst nightmare, losing a parent, this time Bruce. Throughout this issue, Dick talks about how much Bruce helped him deal with his parents' death. He saved him, and helped make sure that he didn't feel alone. So when the idea of Bruce not making it out of the coma crops in his mind, he is willing to do anything to save him, which makes his moment hugging Bruce, it's a sweet and earned moment, along with doubling as a less creepy reference to The Dark Knight Returns. You know the scene. It was a nice highlight for his character. Next up, we'll talk about Alfred. It's very clear that Loeb took inspiration from Tom Taylor's Alfred in his Nightwing run, as the way Alfred tries to help Dick cope with his fear is very similar to how Tom Taylor would write Alfred in his Nightwing run, though a bit more harsher. Not saying he's not scared either, but he knows Bruce and has to have faith that he will have the strength to wake up. This, along with Mario's little rant in the beginning, that this issue's focus was mainly on family, which I dig. Besides that, yeah, there's not much I could say about the characters outside the two, though I am curious of what exactly Calendar Man means to Robin when he says he's on the wrong side. Make me wonder that maybe the one behind it is someone in the GCPD, but we're gonna have to wait and see. The art was done by Cliff Chang here, and unlike the previous artist, he really didn't try to copy Tim Sale's style. The lighting's much more sharper, the character designs are more akin to how he draws them, best example being Catwoman, as he did the art for the really underrated Catwoman Lonely City story, and really only stuck to the design of the buildings when it came to how Gotham should look. Besides the architecture, architecture, which even then is not too noticeable unless you're looking for it. The only other element that does seem familiar to Tim Sale's work is the use of color. David Stewart on color really tries his best to emphasize the hard colors that The Long Halloween was known for, which I think was well done. On a whole, issue 4 seems to be the best out of the series so far. It doesn't try to retread anything, how Dick Grayson's written is well done, and they do sow enough seeds that you are still wondering what's going on with the mystery. And though last issue felt like they were dragging on, this one gets back on their feet and tries to give more momentum. Now whether or not they'll be able to keep that momentum, well, we're gonna have to wait until Valentine. Crap, I gotta do another Valentine's obligation. Hope you have a happy new year, everyone. Next time, well, I'm gonna do my top 5 favorite and most disappointing comics of 2024. But after that, well, it is New Year's. We should look back. Not back to the past, but back to the future and see if it really is more than meets the eye. Later.